An AI-generated post for your viewing pleasure. What if traditional education could be entirely reimagined? Today, we delve into a research paper that critiques conventional classrooms and introduces a concept known as the Null Faculty. This may just shift your perspective on what effective education could look like. Welcome, everyone. In this video, we're exploring a fascinating research paper by Christian Panarello that critiques traditional educational systems and introduces the concept of the Null Faculty. Join me as we break down the paper's objectives, methodology, key findings, and limitations, providing you with a clear picture of its implications for education. The goal of Panarello's study is to analyze how traditional educational systems often fail to adequately engage students and foster genuine intellectual curiosity. The research specifically examines the concept of the Null Faculty, which describes classrooms that operate passively where educational stagnation can occur. This sets the stage for exploring why many educational practices need to be reevaluated. To achieve these objectives, the paper employs a qualitative methodology, analyzing existing literature on educational theories, particularly those proposed by John Dewey and G.P. By reviewing relevant studies and educational practices, Panarello draws connections between these established theories and the current failings of conventional education systems. This approach serves to pinpoint the areas where traditional models diverge from effective teaching strategies. One of the paper's most significant findings is the identification of educational systems that prioritize rote memorization over interactive learning. Students in these environments often experience disconnection from the material, reducing their engagement and undermining their capacity for critical thinking. The research highlights the essential role of active learning in developing a rich educational experience. Panarello emphasizes the shift towards modified constructivism, advocating for interactive and experiential learning methods. By fostering an environment where students construct their understanding, the paper asserts that education can become more relevant and meaningful. This finding positions modified constructivism as a potential solution to the current challenges facing traditional educational framework. The critique of the Null Faculty serves as a wake-up call for educators and policymakers alike. Panarello suggests that by recognizing the limitations of current methods, stakeholders can begin to implement changes that will yield deeper engagement among students. This analysis reveals the crucial need for reform in how education is approached at both institutional and curricular levels. However, the paper does have limitations. While it presents compelling arguments for changing educational practices, it lacks concrete examples of implementing modified constructivism across diverse educational settings. This gap poses challenges for stakeholders who may struggle to envision practical applications. Additionally, the paper assumes a willingness to adopt these ideas, which might not always align with entrenched educational systems. Despite these limitations, the opportunities for reform highlighted in the paper are significant. By embracing a more interactive learning model, educational institutions have the potential to transform how students engage with material. Such reform could lead to a generation of learners who are not only knowledgeable, but also inquisitive and adaptable in various fields. Yet, the threats to this vision remain. Resistance from traditional educational practices and the systemic barriers to reform are considerable challenges. Without adequate support and resources, attempts to instill these new methods could lead to superficial changes rather than meaningful reform. The risk of burnout among educators adapting to new methodologies must also be addressed. In conclusion, Panarello's paper serves as both a critique and a guide for educational reform. It draws attention to the pressing need to reevaluate how education is delivered in light of stagnation represented by the Null Faculty. The call for increased engagement through modified constructivism is both timely and essential, offering a vision for a more dynamic learning environment. By focusing on the implications of this research, we encourage educators and policymakers to consider how they might integrate these findings into their practice. The potential for revitalizing education exists, but it requires concerted effort and a willingness to innovate. How might your own educational practices reflect this new understanding? If you're curious about how these changes could shape the future of education, let's discuss it in the comments below. Your thoughts on the paper's findings and your own experiences with traditional versus interactive learning environments are invaluable. What aspects of this research resonate with you? The consecutive barriers highlighted in the research serve as a reminder that educational reform cannot happen in isolation. It must be a collaborative effort, bringing together educators, students, and policymakers to instigate meaningful change. Each voice in this conversation is vital to driving the movement forward. Overall, Panarello's paper presents a compelling case for reevaluating current educational methodologies. Its findings illuminate the pressing need for change and underscore the importance of engaging students through active learning. This research is a vital piece of the puzzle in understanding how to foster a richer educational landscape. As we wrap up this discussion, remember to think critically about your own educational experiences and how they align with the findings from this study. The journey toward meaningful reform in education requires introspection and dialogue, so keep the conversation going. In summary, this video has explored the key insights from Panarello's research on the Null Faculty. We've looked at its goals, methodology, and findings, as well as the limitations and opportunities presented. The potential for a more engaging educational experience is clear, but it will take dedicated effort to realize it. Thank you for joining me today as we examine the research paper by Christian Panarello. I hope this discussion has sparked your curiosity about educational reform and the role of active learning in classrooms. If you found this exploration of the Null Faculty enlightening, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your insights on how we can reshape the future of education based on research-backed methods. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on more discussions around important educational research. Your engagement helps keep these conversations alive. Until next time, this video is not medical advice and is AI generated. Your engagement helps drive this discussion. Subscribe, share your thoughts, and let's continue to explore the evolving landscape of education together.